welcome to week 25. Can't believe it's week 25 already. Very nearly halfway there now. Start with a bit of a weekly roundup, what's gone on this week, what I've been up to, what I've done, how it's gone, that kind of stuff. So this time last week we were in Polperro in Cornwall with Becky and a couple of mates. Went on an epic walk on the Saturday from Polperro to Polruin. Ruin being the operative word, absolutely destroyed my knee, made me realise how unfit I was. As a consequence, I haven't run this week, and I think that's been a bit of a good thing actually. My knees felt great. The reason why it's felt great is because I haven't run. Yes, I haven't run at all this week, but I have done 3 turbo sessions, and I rode into work and back on Tuesday, and that's going to be something that I increase in terms of riding in and out of work. This is the last week I've got an evening class on a Wednesday, so as of the week after next, which will be week 27, I'll ride into work and back on Tuesday and Wednesday and just increase that overall time spent on the bike. Swimming's going well. Swimming pool was closed on Monday night for Masters, so I've only swum once this week, but the swim set was about 2,000 metres in total of hard effort. I think the average 100 metre pace I swam was about 1 minute 34 per 100 for the 2K, so my swim's going okay. I know I need to build the endurance in there, and alongside the bike stuff, that seems to be 2 things that are going well, and the knee feels better, so overall pretty good improvement.
Don't wanna complicate you.
In terms of the food intake, I've kept a food diary which I'm going to send over to Sophie today. It's a real mixed bag of good eating and bad eating. I'll be interested to see how she can help me out with the sort of logistics of it, I think, more than anything. I know what I need to eat, it's just more a case of trying to get some recipes that I can batch cook and take to work. And she said something to me a couple of weeks ago to make sure you never leave the house without food. That makes some sense to me. I like the idea of making sure that you're prepped and ready to go each day. Last night I went to see this fella, a jersey that's signed by my friend John got for me. A chap called Bradley Wiggins, who should know who he is. He was the first British Tour de France winner, and yeah, it was quite an interesting night. I managed to go over to St David's Hall in Cardiff and had a great night listening to him contradict himself and be very sweary and basically just be the flawed character that I sort of tend to like. A lot of my cycling heroes, they tend to be pretty driven and pretty contradictory and pretty controversial characters. Namely, Stephen Roche and David Miller and Bradley Wiggins are kind of my big 3 that I absolutely adore. Alongside Chris Boardman, who probably couldn't be more opposite to that if you tried. The least controversial, the least contradictory person you could ever meet. I love those guys. They're part of my inspiration and my world and what motivates me. And yeah, it was great to actually see him and hear him talk about all these amazing things that he's done and how he's moved on from that now into the sort of next stages of his life, really. And I was given a seat by the promoter next to Chris Lillywhite, who was the milk race winner in 1993. He's one of the DS's now for Team Wiggins, and he turned out to be a really lovely guy and obviously a bit of a legendary character, and it was really lovely to have a chat to him as well. So all in all, really interesting, busy but very interesting week. So on to other things then. So something else that I learnt this week is that the Bristol Triathlon isn't happening in 2019, which is an interesting thing for me to have to comprehend, really, being that this was the focus for my entire set of videos. 25 weeks, and you find out that all those 25 weeks worth of videos have been leading up to an event that isn't actually taking place. What do you do when things like this happen? Well, you either angry about it. I must admit, I was a little bit annoyed about it. I had been reassured a lot that it was going to take place, and so you have to look for something else. And I'd like a closed road race. One of my strengths is that I'm an average time trialist. I enjoy time trialing, and I want something that's relatively flat, that's closed roads, and relatively a straightforward, sort of least technical course I can. So my friend John Bale told me about the Swansea Triathlon, which is a sprint distance, open water swim. Bike is relatively flat and straight out and back course, which as a time trialist kind of suits me down to the ground. The swim looks okay, the run looks like a run. Alongside that, possibly I might do Cardiff, although I didn't really enjoy Cardiff. It's quite a technical course and gets really congested. You can't really ride to any kind of plan really. I did Cardiff in 2015 when I was running quite well. I think I came 50th or something around there. I had a terrible blister on my foot from the rain that happened that day. So Cardiff might be on the cards as well. I think that's in June. So you just adapt and overcome, don't you? Which kind of takes me on to a little bit to do with the thing I've been thinking about really, and the importance on focusing on both your strengths and your weaknesses. I get this with music really, with students practicing their instruments, particularly drums. They tend to practice the stuff they can already do, and obviously I think that's a bit of a trait for all of us. I am actually pretty good at focusing on my flaws. I don't like doing it, but I know what they are, and I think one of the things I'm going to do this week is sit down for each discipline and go through all of the bits that I think I need to kind of work on my strengths and my weaknesses, and make some small interim goals basically between now and next week's video, and I'll talk you through what they are. It's a system that Andy Bullock took us through with Pat Try on one of our club nights when he came over to do a talk, and it's a very interesting, very useful process to really narrow down what you're good at and what you're not so good at. It's important to acknowledge and work on both. You want your strengths to be something that you're even stronger at, because obviously in a race situation, if you're a good time trialist on the flat, then obviously you need to make up as much time as you can. If you're a good runner, the same being the case. But obviously you need to work on those weaknesses so that they don't outbalance. It's all about balance really, and making sure that you're working on all those areas in a balanced manner. I think it's one of the reasons why I particularly like triathlon, because it is a case of trying to work out that balance and get your head around all three sports, but to try and think of it like, again, another controversial character, Brett Sutton, who's coached some of the best triathletes in the world, Daniela Reef, Christy Wellington. He says that triathlon is a single sport. It's not an individual set of elements, but obviously you need to work on each of those individual set of elements as you would with anything that's a composite of lots of things. It isn't running a 10k, which is a far simpler process. The 10k at the end of a triathlon is a far more complex thing in terms of nutrition, in terms of your strength, and in terms of your mental capacity. So I think that is one of the things that I absolutely love working on with this whole triathlon approach anyway. So yeah, strengths and weaknesses is going to be two things that I focus on over the next week, and obviously being able to hear back from Sophie to sort of point me in the right direction with what I can do in terms of nutrition, and bang on with the bike. I'm enjoying it. The weather's supposed to turn, so I'm going to have to dig out the thermals and crack on and see what we can get done over the next 7 days and moving forwards all the time. Have a good week. Let's hope the weather isn't too catastrophic over the next 7 days.
Very few of us are lucky or talented enough to live the life of a professional athlete. And we often have situations where work or family commitments rightly have to take priority over our training as mere amateurs. What I like to do at the start of a week is have a look and see which sessions are going to be the most important for that week and prioritise those. So if I have anything that comes up which means I have to miss a session, I can miss one of the less important ones, and also make sure I'm not missing the same session over and over again, which might be my least favourite one perhaps. I also think it's important not to try and play catch up. So if you have a session that you missed, don't try and roll two into one. So for example, doing some speed intervals in the middle of what's supposed to be a long steady run, because I think you'll not get the benefit of the intervals. You'll also mess up your run. It won't be as effective as it could be, and you're just accumulating fatigue, which will inevitably make the sessions that come after that week less beneficial for you, and in the long run you won't get the fitness benefit.